Good morning. I'd like to call to order the December 18th, 2024 Ulster County Industrial Development Agency meeting. I will now have a call to order. Michael Ham, present. Rachel Silverman, Stephen Kelly, Joseph Ferraro, Randall Everett, Trevor Kerwin, and Costi Well. Thank you very much. All are in attendance. Can we please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The mission statement of the Ulster County Industrial Development Agency is to advance the job opportunities, the general prosperity, and long-term economic vitality of Ulster County residents by targeting tax incentives, bonding, and other assistance to foster creation and attraction of new business and the retention and expansion of existing business. In front of you, you'll have the regular board meeting minutes from November 20th, 2024. It's on page 3. I ask that you review that. Now I will entertain a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment on agenda items only? No public comment? Executive session. I don't see any executive session necessary. Okay. The chair's report. So leading into 2026, I'm very, very optimistic about.
You skipped 25.
My what?
Skip 25.
Very optimistic.
He said leading into 2026.
Oh, leading into
Like,
yeah.
we're
I'm sorry. Leading into 2025. I apologize. I'm looking. I thought first somebody said I skipped 5. I apologize. I'm very optimistic about the people that are approaching us. There's a lot of private work coming our way. I've been going back and forth with the executive director and potential clients, and I feel very, very good about some of these big projects that are looking down the barrel here. I actually, on my personal end, on my regular business day, I've already, I've known about a couple of these big projects coming, and they finally jumped way ahead of schedule. So I'm pretty excited about it. But I don't want to steal the thunder from our ED because she always gives a fantastic report. So I'm going to turn it over to the executive director.
Thank you, Michael. So I'm not going to start off with projects because I'm just not. Instead, I'm going to start off with our annual project monitoring. So for those of you who are new, returning members, every year we have to monitor all of our IDA projects. So in December, to gear up for this, the letters and annual invoices have gone out. They've been mailed and emailed into all of the projects. And we're just really in the process of getting all of those confirmations of contacts for this year. So sometimes people change, and that can be where we find holdups in getting the paperwork that we need. So every year we have to complete a PARIS report, which is the Public Authorities Reporting Information System. We report on the job numbers. We report on any information relating to a real property tax exemption issued to each project, as well as some outstanding bond amounts. So those are the kinds of things that we're collecting from projects. And once we get all of their paperwork, it's about usually this thick. So it's quite the undertaking. And in order to do all of this, we need to collect all of this information from projects by January 31st. And they can't really start giving it to us until mid-January, because part of that is submitting to us the New York 45 for the last quarter of 23. So it's a very tight turnaround time. And we work really hard with all the projects to make sure that we get that from them. We have our audit scheduled. So part of our PARIS reporting is we need to have a certified audit from an outside accountant. So that is scheduled for January 27th. So as you see, that projects are reporting during our audit. So this is a heavy lift for us, but last year we worked with BST and they did a phenomenal job, and we were able to get everything in on time. So all of this needs to be approved by our March meeting. That includes all of our information into PARIS, all of the other supplemental reports that go out to the ABO, as well as our certified audit. So it's really important that you guys are here for that March meeting, or at least we have quorum. So please keep us in the loop if there are any things that happen where you feel you can't be in attendance. So it's not just reporting from us as administration, it's also some work from board members. So one of the things I've brought with me, if you could all take it, I'm going to email it out to those of you who are not paper people. But we have to do a confidential board evaluation. So board members are going to be looking and thinking about those questions on there. This comes straight from the ABO. It's not a Hillary document. It's an ABO document. So you're going to want to think about how the board is functioning, things that are going well, areas where you think we could improve, and then that will go to governance for review and then brought to the full board for discussion and feedback and ideas of how we can improve going forward. Additionally, we're going to be asking our board members to do site visits. I thank all of you that have gotten back to me on places you'd like to go see. Our plan for this year is to hear from everyone, think about what sites you'd like to visit, let me know, and then we're going to assign everyone 2 sites. Then from there, we can work with you individually, schedule it for you, go with you, make a warm handoff, let you handle it by yourself. Whatever you feel most comfortable and works best with your schedule is fine with us. When you go on the site visit, we will give you a form. On that form, you will have all the information about the project and the numbers that were reported into Paris last year and kind of where they are in, the continuum of incentives from the IDA. So is this their first year? Is this their last year? What are some things to be looking at? And then there are 3 questions on there. I inherited those questions and we're kind of carrying them over. But if you're out there and you're finding that there's things that we can do to improve this report as you're out at the sites, let us know. It's an internal policy of our IDA, so this is an area where we have some leeway to make it better and improve on it, and we'd love to get your feedback on that. We're really hoping that those could be completed in the months of January and February. So we're going to summarize all of the feedback on our from our site visits and put that into kind of some of the summaries of our annual reporting. So the sooner I get it back from you, the easier it is for me, but as long as I have everything by, I would say, the first 10 days in March, we're pretty good. And if you're having issues contacting a site or getting them to let you, work with their schedule, your schedule to go there, just pick another site and I'm fine with just showing up and knocking on their door. So don't feel like you have to take the hardest one. I think I'll just pause right there very quickly. Is there any questions on this from the board's responsibility perspective? Okay, perfect. Some of the work of this is going to go through our governance committee. So all of you, even if you're not a member of the governance committee, if you have some thoughts and like to stick around and talk about what's happening for our annual meeting, please feel free. The governance committee is meeting after this. So moving on, next up I'm just going to kind of talk about community engagement. It's one of my favorite things, and December was really no exception. We do our best to be out and about at events. They tend to focus on economic development, but they're not the only things that we do. So if you have, events that you think would be helpful for the IDA to be in attendance, let me know. I will always say yes if I can be there. We've been working with the chair and really turning our direction to what do we want to see happen in early 2025 in terms of engaging in the community. And so preliminarily, kind of in the early stages, we're looking at 3 to 4 events. Small events. I love a good party, but these are not parties. These are more educational events. So we're looking at working with Chris, we're just finalizing a date, likely in late February, early March, to meet with all the supervisors and the assessors to go out. I think we have a lot of small municipalities here in our county, and not all of the people that work there have been there for 30 years, and I think that they've, as Michael had mentioned, a lot of big projects coming in, and we don't want anyone to feel like they're building the plane while they're flying it, whatever that expression is, because learning to do an IDA project from a small municipality is a big undertaking. Many of these people are part-time staff, or some cases maybe even more like a volunteer. And so we want to be a resource and walk them through what to expect, how to work with us, and then what to expect long term, once a pilot is in place in their town or municipality. So that's going to be open to all the towns, supervisors, assessors. They can invite zoning, planning. I know Chris and I are really ready to hear all those wonderful questions, and the public as well. So everything we do is also open to the public. And then from there, we plan to target businesses, because another area that we're finding is that businesses are coming to us and don't always understand what the IDA is. Sometimes I'll get questions, do you guys give out grants? And understanding about the fees associated with the IDA, what types of projects are eligible. And so we'd like to kind of do a blanket to businesses, to developers, to anyone kind of in that sphere who may be communicating with potential projects and developers about what actually is the IDA. And so we're looking at that, splitting that actually into two, because even though I feel at this point I can recite it in my sleep, it can be really confusing if you're hearing it for the first time. And now that we have a housing policy, which has a different matrix from our UTEP, I've spoken to planning, and they're willing to kind of go out with us, because planning is also doing a lot, having their own initiatives for housing. And so they're willing to support us and do kind of if you want to build housing here in Ulster County, and talk to housing developers, and then we'll do one with businesses. I have reached out to the Economic Development Office to see if they'd be interested in partnering with us on that, and I have not. Planning has said yes. I have not heard yet from the Economic Development Office. So that's that. And then in April, we'd like to do another community event similar to the one that we did last year. We still get, I think I was out the other night, Steve was there at an Ulster Strong event, and there was a woman from one of our prestigious local banks who even mentioned that she had gone to our event last year and enjoyed it. So I think it left a good impact on the community, and we'd like to do another similar event. I've got lots of ideas, but I think I'm always flexible in my ideas. So if others have things that they feel are popping up in their circles that would be helpful for the community to know about economic development and the IDA, let me know. I am happy to kind of hash through that, and we're looking at, picking a new site, but one that, again, is kind of strategically accessible throughout the county. So that's our community engagement. That was I apologize, yesterday afternoon was a little crazy for me, and I did not get a chance to finish my entire report, but I can kind of shoot from the hip on projects, and I'll echo what the chair said. We are very excited about some phenomenal projects. I keep thinking, tomorrow it's that someone's going to put a shovel in the ground, and that, it's this close, and it is. But as you know, there's a lot of red tape even when you get down to the wire. And so we really are looking, I would see it having a busy first quarter. And we have several projects that we believe are very much moving forward and looking to the IDA for incentives. So we're very excited about that. And I think our process that we have right now, especially for those of you who are new, is that projects meet with us first to make sure that the project is eligible for incentives from the IDA. We do a pre-screen, which is arranged with myself and the chair, with a couple board members, again, to ensure that the project is eligible to move forward. Once that happens, we will have them submit to us a formal application and put it on your agenda for public hearing. And, from there, we get the feedback from the public hearing, and then it would go on the agenda for, approval or not approval from the board for incentives from the IDA. So that's kind of the process to be thinking about. And so again, we want to make sure that we have, when those things are happening, that members are here, we have quorum, and we can move, forward our mission. So that is where I will stop. Any thoughts, questions, or feedback?
So anyone that that didn't attend the event that we put on, I know Steve was there, Rachel was there, Costa, you were there also, right? Yeah, everybody else is pretty much new. It was a tremendous event, and it was a bigger turnout than we anticipated.
It was.
The networking that went on, it extended an extra 20 minutes into our agenda. It was very good, and we had it was so diverse, it was unbelievable. I mean, every aspect of what we could talk about for this county was there, and it was great. We got great feedback from it. So as we said, Hillary expressed that we need to gather up some of these assessors and supervisors, because everybody understands that this is not, it's a little different, the IDA. So sometimes the way they pay, it gets a little convoluted, okay? And then somebody either doubles up on their payments, or doesn't make a payment thinking the county's making the payment. So that's why we want to put everybody in the room for that one. Once again, that'll probably be more of a little slow draw, So, but once again, I recommend that anybody that can come out to those things, when Hillary gets them set up on this board, we should be all in attendance. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Hillary. Always a great report, as you know. So we'll go to committee reports. We'll start with audit. Steve?
The report is on page 9. The drill report start on page 12. They look reasonable. I don't think that there's any need for action.
Move to approve the audit minutes.
Yeah. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Do you want me to give an update, Steve, on the RFP, or?
Oh,
So just so everyone knows, I believe everyone was here at the last meeting, but the audit committee did move to put out for RFP our construction monitoring services. We had not RFP'd that service since 2019. And so it's a good time to just kind of, see who else is out there and give other firms an opportunity to put in a bid for the service. So that did go out. It's posted on our website. I would implore you to reach out to any contacts that you know. We'd love to get, a good variety of firms bidding for this. I did send it out to our, Low-Key Brill, who's currently providing the service. They are in receipt of it and will be submitting a proposal, and I reached out to all of our neighboring IDAs and got a list of who they're using, sent it to all of them, as well as New York State Economic Development Council got their list, and from that have only had one other firm express interest and indicated that they will be submitting a proposal. So the more you can share this with your networks, I think the more robust the proposals that come in will be. So that's my plug on that.
that is Steve?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Finance, Rachel?
No report.
Always the shining star. Come on, governance. What do we got, Costume? Huh?
Putting me on the spot. Actually, nothing to report, but we are meeting after this meeting, as you mentioned, our executive director. And I think the meeting will be quite benign, but we'll be discussing more process-oriented planning and a few other aspects of the application process itself to make it perhaps more transparent and efficient if we can. And a couple more things that we'll discuss, but it'll be more administrative, including policy review. And I'll just point out one thing. I love the idea of having more projects coming in, but I like to not jinx things. So
I know, I gotta
refrain from
stop. Thank you. Do you want me to give a quick task force? Just briefly update on the task force. So I think at this point, we've kind of concluded a lot of our info gathering. I am now inundated with facts. So It's really a matter of paring those down, discussing them with Trevor and kind of figuring out, what does all of this mean, and then what does it mean for the IDA, and what recommendations could help move forward the agenda of the task force, which is sustainable jobs, clean energy, those types of things. That's kind of the lens through which we're looking. But we found some really good information. I think Trevor may also want to echo this, I don't know, but neither one of us are like, we don't work for a consulting firm, we're not data experts. So just take our conclusions, in that vein, and we're happy to share, additional data or things that we found if there are questions, because this is not, I didn't go to school for putting together complex reports, so just.
It's I just add quickly to what Hillary said that it's the one thing I've learned in the time I've spent doing clean energy is that as soon as you think you got all the policy figured out, somebody changes it. So it's a moving target as well.
Yeah.
So so hopefully that we'll be able to pare that down.
Exactly. I think we're probably planning to present like not a 50,000 foot view, but like a 15 to 20,000 foot view. We'll get a little closer, but we're not going to be completely pinpointing it exactly. So, all right, that's all we have for the task force.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Costu. Old business, status of pending projects and enforcement matters. Chris?
Thank you, Chair. Pending transactions, Cresco, I know Hillary's had conversation with project applicants. Maybe you want to give a quick summary of that.
So, Council Joe Sky reached out to me just about, wrapping up 2024 with some of where are our pending projects at. So I've reached out to Cresco, I've spoken to them. They also gave me kind of an update, and I think I'd prefer just to kind of go over the update from them. And I know they're not here to answer any questions, but if there are specific questions, please let me know. They've been very communicative, and I'd be happy to forward on questions the board has. So this was the update I got from them, which is that Cresco Labs remains committed to constructing a state-of-the-art cannabis cultivation facility in Ulster County, and the current job projections and scope of the project still remain the same. They've made significant progress in planning and groundwork, but the cannabis industry itself has kind of faced some challenges that have delayed construction and further development. And then he kind of goes into what some of those challenges are. So the first one talking would be specific to the Office of Cannabis Management. They have faced delays in fully operationalizing adult use licensing and created uncertainty for operators. I asked him if he could speak a little bit on that, and he said that the license that they have is called a registered organization, and he's provided a link to what they are. It is quite complicated, and I really don't feel like even after reading it, I could understand it enough to speak on it, but I can also share that information. The next thing he said is that the Office of Cannabis Management is charging a $20 million fee to registered organizations. They're called ROs, to be able to operate in the adult use market. So that has additionally, that roadblock has made it difficult for them. Most ROs have told the Office of Cannabis Management that they cannot afford this and have paused their AU launch, which is adult use launch, due to this exorbitant upfront fee. And several ROs, not including Cresco, have coalesced, is that a legal word? Okay, to file suit against the state, stating this is unconstitutional and is in conflict with the state cannabis laws. So there is some kind of lawsuits going on. Not Cresco has stated that they're not involved in this suit, but that it is kind of impacting the rollout as a whole. The next thing is kind of conditional licenses, litigation, and inconsistencies in program rollouts have further complicated the regulatory environment. However, they have been in contact with many of the elected officials, including the Town of Warsing supervisor, former and current mayors of Ellenville, Ulster County Legislature for Ellenville, New York State Senator Peter Oberacker, Congressman Pat Ryan, former Congressman Marcus Molinaro, and have had both Senator Schumer and Gillibrand on site for a visit. I also reached out to Senator Hinchey. She serves a large portion of Ulster County, and so this project would impact many of her constituents, as well as Senator Oberacker's office. And unfortunately, they didn't have any significant information regarding any movement on this. I mean, Peter Oberacker's office did comment that lack of staffing in the OCM, Office of Cannabis Management, has led to a lot of these delays, but that was really the only update I was able to get from them. And then we kind of switched. So that's the one issue that is holding up this project. And then we're going to move over to the other big issue, which is the lack of federal cannabis banking reform, which limits access to traditional financing options for the entire industry. And this project is a victim of those limitations. I asked if reclassification of cannabis has helped at all, and he said that it can help, but only from a tax refund perspective, and that the process is ongoing. And there are hearings set for January and February 25, so pending the outcome of those hearings, I will definitely keep you updated. And it does not solve a reclassification also does not solve any of the OCM roadblocks and access to capital without risk of penalization. So absent federal reform, raising capital through traditional means remains challenging and has delayed these large-scale investments. Despite these challenges, though, they state that Cresco is steadfast in its commitment to Ulster County. I asked if there were any timelines that they could project on that, and unfortunately, much of the timing is going to be shaped by the OCM licensing, issuance, and permitting, federal reform, and the ability to raise capital. And they're not necessarily dependent on one another, but shifting variables that they're tracking and will have to manage closely and responsibly. And they're continuing to closely monitor New York's cannabis program and federal reform efforts. And then they plan to proceed as soon as regulatory and financial conditions approved. I asked if there were any specific milestones that would kind of indicate improved conditions. I think it's obvious, but I wanted to be sure. And they said that the OCM reduction in fees and/or approval from the board to issue licenses to ROs. They also mentioned the reclassification from a Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, and that federal reform that includes but is not limited to safer banking, which safer is in all caps, I'm assuming it stands for something, States Act, which again probably also stands for something, as well as the Climb Act. So I don't know a ton about those, but those are the three that they mentioned being related to this project. All of these legislative efforts allow greater access to capital for the regulated cannabis industry. And that is what I have. And that is coming from Christian, but I'm terrible at saying names that I can't. Farika? I don't know. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for Cresco Labs. So that is the update that I have to share.
Most of that, the access to capital is the way that the feds view cannabis. I mean, you can't even use your credit card if you go, you know.
Yeah.
Everything's
like
cash.
They consider it drug money.
Yeah, but,
So.
well, I don't want to get into the weeds on that with Cresco, but
Again,
let's move along. Let's move along.
So if you have questions, feel free to email them to me. I mean, I can continue to bring, the conversation with Cresco and bring any questions board members have to them. But short of what they printed, I would really just be speculating on it because it's not an area I'm as familiar with as they are. And I will leave it back to Chris, or do you want me to do Zinc for you?
So Zinc, there's no real update on that, and we talked a little bit, the radio silence from project applicant Joe and I have talked about. I mean, the legal term, it's not a legal term, I think this one's dead in the water. I don't think it's ever gonna happen, but, Kurt, do you think?
Sure. So, we can put an optimistic spin on this. But I have reached out to, I believe, Rob Parker, who has come to other IDA meetings. His email did not get returned to me despite it having a Zinc 8 at the end, but I did also leave him a voicemail. I've not heard back. The company has, I think, gone through some organizational changes. They have a new name. I did reach out to the new company. They had several contacts listed on their website. I utilized those contacts, but I have not heard an update. So I think that we will likely have to go back for the volume cap on the bond allocation anyway. So should they come back, conditions within their own company approve and come back, I will definitely keep the board apprised. But I think we probably, it's safe to say that there's going to be a longer pause than we had liked in this project, and that pause could last my lifetime. So, yeah.
More optimistic. Pending enforcement matters, no real change to this. 300 Grand Avenue, the termination documents have been recorded, so that one has been put to bed. Woodland Pond project, we're waiting to hear back from company council. We talked about this before. The project applicant went and put a new facility next to the existing facility. The assessor looked at that and put everything back on the tax roll, I believe. So we're working with them to make sure that that gets straightened out. And the Kingstonian, the last meeting we had, we approved, the board approved extending the completion date and whatnot. So we are working on the amendment documents for that. We'll get those out to the different parties and have Mike sign those this month.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Any new business? Is there any new business? I have some new business. Okay. As we all know, Joe is going to be stepping down, okay, and retiring. It's probably his last IDA meeting here in Ulster County. Yes, no, maybe?
Unless you have a special meeting between now and then.
There you go. And I doubt that's coming, Joe, unless it's at your house, okay? But I got to tell you something. I've worked with Joe many years, and I've always bounced things off of Joe. I've been able to call him at any given time. Joe has always gave great direction, great legal advice. He was a cauldron of. I used to try to stump Joe, okay, and I never could stump Joe. So Joe has been just, a godsend for this IDA for the last 20. How many, Joe?
It's actually early 1990s.
Oh, good
Wow.
gosh. Yeah. The big joke was Joe came with the IDA. So, he's been around a long time. I personally would like to thank Joe for everything he's done for this IDA and always picking up the phone. So, once again, Joe will be leaving. Chris will be taking over. He's got big shoes to fill. And, I see good things coming from Chris. And Joe, congratulations. And enjoy wherever you're heading.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.
So with that, no more new business. I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
All right. We're gonna roll right into CRC.
Yeah, we'll roll right into it,
Okay.
Okay, let's call to order the Ulster County Capital Resource Corporation meeting here on December 18th. It is 9:40 a.m. Call to order. Michael Ham, present. Rachel Silverman, Stephen Kelly, Joseph Ferraro, Randall Leverett, Trevor Kerwin, and Costu Ball. Very good. We have a quorum. Everyone's here. The mission statement of the Ulster County Capital Resource Corporation is to promote community and economic development in Ulster County in ways that complement the work of Ulster County, primarily through issuing and selling bonds for nonprofit institutions. In front of you, you will have the regular board minutes, meeting minutes from November 20th, 2024 on page 3. I ask you review, and I'll entertain a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Public comment on agenda items only. There is no public comment. The chair's report. Let the chair's report from the UCIDA reflect the um, I'm
Or
stumped.
the UCCRC
UC, UCCRC reflect the minutes of the IDA, UCIDA audit.
The audit report is starts
Oh.
on page 6.
I apologize. I skipped.
That's okay, same.
yeah.
Reflects the
Executive
IDA
Director.
report.
Audit approval. Let it reflect.
The minutes.
The
You wanna do
minutes.
The minutes real quick.
Mhm.
Just approval for that.
Yeah, can we get a motion to accept the minutes on that? Randall, second. Rachel, thank you. Finance, Rachel,
No report.
no report. Governance,
No different report than what we reported to the UCID meeting.
okay, that will reflect. Old business, is there any old business?
I have a question. The audit committee reports, do we need to vote to approve for UCCRC?
We just did.
We just did.
Have
We just
you-
I
motion.
moved and seconded, but we didn't, that was I
Oh.
moved, she seconded.
Oh, I
We
see.
didn't
We forgot to
call the
vote.
vote.
I'm sorry, all in favor? Aye. Any other old business? Any new business? Any new
I
business?
usually say goodbye to Joe.
Huh? Let the new business for the UCCRC, yeah. Joe, congratulations. Go enjoy. Yeah. Okay. Motion for adjournment? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Nobody seconded.
Nobody seconded this one.
I'll second it.
All right.
I heard Rachel.
All right.
Rachel second. Okay.
I heard Rachel.
I think we'll take a quick break.
Twenty 2024. It's almost 10 a.m., 9:57 a.m. May I please do a roll call? Costa present. Ms. Silverman,
Present.
Mr. Stephen Kelly. We have a quorum, and do we need the Pledge of Allegiance since we just did? All right. All right, perfect, thank you. After you have both had the time to review the minutes, may I please seek a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion has been approved for the minutes approval for November 20th, 2024 meeting. Any public comments? Believe not. I don't believe we need an executive session for this. We'll keep this short as well. We have a brief agenda, mainly to get an update on the Sustainable Task Force, and then also on a couple items on the Bayview fees currently, mostly for the post-closing administrative tasks. And then perhaps we will discuss that we would like to come back to the governance committee with a thought on how we think about fee structure should be going forward. So we just want to make sure we mention that. That will not be discussed right now, but Hillary, you can perhaps go into a little more detail about why we're doing that. And I believe that is the primary goal. The other slightly perhaps longer review will be a review of certain agency policies and bylaws. One includes the ethics code, and the second, Hillary, if you remind me, the fee schedule and how we look at it currently, right? Which relates to my
Yep.
first point. All right. Anything I missed?
I think the other thing we could start to discuss, and I apologize, I printed them out and they never made it this far, but every year the IDA has to submit a form to the ABO that board members have reviewed their mission statement and their performance measures, which are also posted on our website. These have remained the same since 2011, but again, we want to just make sure that people are talking about them, and I'm happy to read them off, and maybe we could have a quick conversation and make sure we're all on the same page as these continue to be relevant goals for the IDA. So.
All right, thank you. So maybe we can start with old business, which is an update on Sustainable Task Force. And
sure.
Would you like to?
So, to not be overly redundant, based on the last meeting,
Yep.
the task force continues to work towards its objectives, and as stated in the IDA meeting, the regular meeting, and I would think, we're a little bit behind in our presentation, but I feel like the majority of the work is done. It's now really organizing that, and we are excited to bring to the governance committee, likely either at the next meeting or the one after that, really depending on how things fall around our annual meeting, some findings.
All right, that's perfect and helpful. For the new business, Hillary, should we talk about the administrative fees first?
We can start with
So,
fees.
all right, so there's a handout, which is the fee schedule guidelines.
This is currently posted on our website. So all of our policies and bylaws are posted on our website. And for those of you who are new, annually, the IDA reviews all of the policies, reaffirms them at our annual meeting, and we wanted to bring ones where we thought could use a slight sprucing up to the governance committee for if you decide to make any changes, we would recommend those for our annual meeting. So next month we will have a regular board meeting and an annual meeting.
Yeah, and the main reason is to ensure that we have reviewed the policy on a regular basis, but also that we have updated anything that we need to. Perhaps if there's a fee that we believe is charged right now, however, it takes a lot longer to get the work done. So we wanted to think about, is that a fair fee or should we be adjusting it? And also looking at whether we have looked at any increases over time since it was last reviewed. So if we look at the administrative post-closing fees, I know we get a few modifications, especially when it comes to refinancing or any such work. And currently, I believe we charge $500.
Yep, we have a minimum fee of $500 that we
Which
charge
does not
the
include
project.
council.
It does not.
fees.
Council fees are separate, and those are charged to the project directly by Hodgkins Russ.
So we wanted to think about, and Hillary, again, I'll let you
Sure.
provide a detail. We did think through how should we look at it. So we are looking at, and I don't know if you have the number, in terms of how much time and effort goes from our office into taking care of these tasks. Sometimes we have a lot of follow-up, sometimes we don't. However, we want to be consistent as it comes to for each applicant and client, if you may. However, if there is something additional, we want to be mindful of that and not just put in the time, but be compensated for that time at least.
So we were, with respect to what Kostub said, we're looking at making 3 changes, and you can guys chime in if I'm. We noticed that post-closing modification kind of come in like 3 general groups. One is, a modification, maybe they're making a change to their mortgage, and the IDA is a leasehold interest in that. And so these are ones that are a relatively less involved administrative task for us. And so we were looking at just the cost of doing business has gone up considerably, making that minimum fee $750. I have reached out to BST to get some confirmation of numbers. We want to make sure that we're charging things that are reflective of our true costs and not just arbitrarily throwing a number at it. So I'm waiting on that, but well, we just arbitrarily throw a number at it. We were going to throw $750 to start as that minimum fee for those types of what are they called? Because they're not really a modification. What's the term when they?
Just an annual.
I
Whether it be an asked to
Amendments?
sign a mortgage.
Yeah.
Basically. So
Those terms. So that
it's administrative.
so I guess administrative ones, the minimum fee of $750. We have asked BST to kind of give us a IDA operating costs per hour minus legal fees. So, take those out because the project is paying those legal fees. So we want to ensure that, these fees are not counted twice.
How does this compare, what are other agencies charging?
So in my experience, it's usually $500 to $1,000 for these. Sometimes based on the project, the IDA won't charge anything, but 500 to 1,000 is kind of the ballpark.
And Hillary, you looked at the
I've
comparisons
got
too,
a
right?
whole spreadsheet,
Yeah.
yes.
So the 750 is a reasonable number?
It is. It's a reasonable number. We just wanted to confirm it with our accountants before we.
We
Yeah.
took a range and Hillary and I had a discussion that let's have some substantive information as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Fine.
So and then that's the first one. The second one is the modifications. So sometimes I think the Kingstonian is a good example. It's fresh in everyone's mind. That was a modification to the agreement. That's a little more of work for us involved. There's a little more administrative time. It usually involves several meetings. And so we were looking at putting that fee in about the $1,000 range, $1,500, again, confirming those numbers with our accountants. And then the last category was we were looking at the termination of a pilot agreement. And I think we just saw that with the 300 Grand Avenue. That was a considerable time lift for us. And we tried to kind of look at how much time we spent and come up with a figure of $5,000, which is what we charged the project. And so again, once confirming those fees with the accountant, we feel that $5,000 is reasonable given the amount of time that the IDA spends to terminate a pilot agreement. This was lots of meetings with towns, assessors, the project, and not to mention our administrative time, just going to the post office. So that's a little bit of a heavy lift. And then we're looking at, again, getting that per dollar amount from BST. So should they need something that is not typical of us doing these, that we can then charge them a per hour basis above and beyond anything that's typical. So we expect a termination typically to have all of those meetings and to walk to the post office 13 times and to send 50 emails, but there may be things that we didn't expect.
Do all that for $750?
No, that's
No, this is the
5,000.
different one.
So the 750 is the
everything.
easy lift. It's really just a more administrative tasks for us.
What section?
This is not in a section. This is new,
It's new.
created. Because
Wow.
right now we just have that
We don't have
$500
that,
flat fee.
Okay.
And so that
makes
doesn't
sense.
work for most of the work that we're doing.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Quick question, would that come out of do we have a situation where a project in that situation doesn't have any cash to pay for it? Does it come out of do we retain the deposit, isn't there did I read that right?
This is after the project's closed.
Okay.
So we've collected fees. They've given us any fees
Oh, this is
associated.
post-closing, not-
These are
not-
post-closing.
not canceling.
Yeah, we're on,
Right.
sorry, we're on page 2, section 5.
Okay.
Right now, we just have a $500 fee, which most of our work we're finding is more involved than what $500 can cover. And so as opposed to us sitting here trying to add that up, figure out what's reasonable, we'd like to kind of just reflect the work involved in each of these
Can I
things.
jump in on this
Please
one?
do.
It might be something to think about is having a range from like 2,500 to 5,000, just to give you some flexibility.
Okay, sure.
Because 5 is,
High,
but like the last one we did, that was
very
warranted
involved.
for that.
Yeah.
Very involved.
Okay.
Maybe on a lesser one, it
It was the only one I've ever done, so
Yeah.
I don't have
but
a
a
good
range always gives you
perspective.
flexibility.
Sure.
So we would be changing it from $500 to a range, or is it a new category?
So we'll have 3 categories.
Yeah.
One will be for, let's say, smaller tasks, if you may.
Basic administrative
tasks for modification and amendments that come in. Then a second one, which is more involved, and it could be an amendment or something similar that takes a lot of our administrative time. And then a third one, so the second one will be about $1,000 to $1,500 once we
Yeah, I
substantiate
like
the
the
costs.
range. Okay.
The third fee is for termination of a project, where our office gets very involved, and as Hillary said, has a lot of tasks. For that, we want to be fair to our office as well and charge the right appropriate amount to cover our costs. So
Right.
that's the third category we were discussing.
Okay.
And if that last is a range, we're
Correct.
discretionary, like, okay.
Yeah.
Plus,
I like
it'll have a per hour component.
Per hour, like let's say we had to claw something back and it became, months of work to do that. That could be something where we start to look at, hey, this was, 80 hours worth of work, well above the 5,000.
And from our office's standpoint, it also allows for the transparency for the client.
Yeah.
To be able to see what we're exactly asking for, rather than just throwing a number on the wall.
So that is
So will council then draft
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
as a
The changes.
proposal, and then we can set it once we know the amount?
I think one of the things, do you want me to go into one of the future things? So one of the things, we didn't really, we haven't gotten the chance to really discuss and go through today, but where we'd like to see us go is one of the things that I've noticed, and if you look on our website, you'll see a significant amount of projects, and you'll look around and you'll say, well, where is that project? And so right now, we do a lot of work meeting with project applicants. We do the pre-screen. We get it in front. We have everyone vote on it. You guys will approve that. We don't get any administrative fees until the project closes. So sometimes you as board members may approve a project for incentives and the project never closes. Or like in the Cresco case, the closing is well delayed. And so again, in my research with other IDAs, what I'm seeing is that other IDAs are aware of this problem. And so upon an approving resolution from the board, they're collecting either a flat fee or a small percentage of the total project fee that then, once the project fully closes, would be applied to the fee due to the IDA. It wouldn't be an additional fee, but it lets us recoup a little bit of our administrative time should the project not fully come to fruition. Think Sync 8, think Cresco. There's a lot of examples of these, and we'd like to ensure that there's a little bit of compensation going into the considerable amount of work it takes to support these projects, especially if you as board members have approved them for incentives. And so that's kind of where our discussion has gotten to at this point, but we haven't really nailed down what that would specifically look like.
Any questions or thoughts or clarifications needed on that?
I think all those are very good ideas,
Okay.
and I think having council draft the proposed language so we have something to look at. But I think conceptually it makes a lot of sense.
I
One thought
agree.
would be to get, sorry to interrupt you, one thought would be, instead of waiting for the approving resolution to be adopted, you could even push it to the back towards, the public hearing date. Once you hold the public hearing.
Okay. I mean, I went through a bunch of other IDAs, and a lot of them that are doing it based on an approval for incentives.
Yeah.
Because then if
Right,
they're
that's-
approved for incentives, then in theory, we're going to collect that fee from them. Whereas the public hearing, there's no guarantee. And then it sits in escrow, and I love it. But that's just a model that I've seen other IDAs adopt. And I think so. It could be something that I feel the board should take under.
But we will consider that.
Yeah. So, okay.
All right. So that's on the fees. Just to give you a preview of what is not in this meeting, and literally a preview. Hillary and I have also discussed, and I'll discuss with Chair as well at some point, and of course both of you, how should we think about our fee structure in general? And not only the fee structure, but also the fee amount of 1% that we have. Hillary has done quite a bit of work with respect to looking at other IDAs, and she has looked at whether all other IDAs and whether it's a good practice or not to charge a fee that is dependent on a particular industry.
Mhm.
whether there should be an industry bias, for the lack of a better term here, or should it be by size, or should it be by both? So we are thinking about that structure. And the reason I mentioned size is because this is a very important thing. It's kind of a plug that I wanted to put in right now. That we would also like to at some point think about how can we be of help to small to mid-size opportunities as well. So any small to mid-size businesses that want to avail of IDA benefits, if you may, how can we actually be of help? And for them, or for that kind of a business, a fee could be punitive in certain instances of a certain size that we are thinking about. Or it could actually be something that a fee may not matter. So we don't want it to be an attractive feature that somebody should come here because of our fees. We want people to come here because why they should come here for better opportunities. But at the same time, I think a better structure and proper fees that are commensurate with comparable IDAs will make us more transparent and perhaps more effective as well.
Can I give a quick example?
Yes,
So
please.
one of the examples, I just know that we have some new board members, so to give just some teeth to that, IDAs can abate 3 types of taxes. We can abate the mortgage recording tax, which in Ulster County is 0.75. We can abate the sales and use tax, and we can abate the real property tax through pilot agreements. Okay. In some other counties, they recognize that not all projects or smaller projects may not be coming to the IDA for a pilot agreement. And in those instances, there's another, is it 485, 487? 485B. So there is another avenue for different types of projects that may not come to the IDA for whatever reason to get a real property tax exemption. And it does not, I believe, abate the school district tax.
Does.
Oh, it
It
does.
does.
Okay.
As long as the school district hasn't opted out.
Hasn't opted out, and it doesn't kind of reflect the nature of all the nuances that our IDA get into, and it's a shorter term. It's an as of right. And so for what some other IDAs are doing is for projects that go that route, they are coming to the IDA for the mortgage recording tax abatement and the sales and use tax abatement. And that's typically a flat fee, or what I've seen is a percentage of the savings. So let's say you come to us for a sales and use and a mortgage recording tax, and that total savings is $500,000. We would take a percentage of that savings as the fee, not to be under a certain amount. And this just gives us more kind of ways to execute our mission, because now we can help more businesses. And if you look at how our fee structure is now, and you go by that 1% of the total project cost to come and seek just the sales and use and the mortgage recording tax, it may, by the time you pay the attorney fees, pay our fees, it kind of, as Kastu kind of mentioned, it could be a deterrent. It would be more expensive to come to the IDA than what you could potentially save. So I think if you're interested, I know Orange County is one that does a lot in that vein, and you can look to them as an example. But this is, I would say, fairly common among IDAs. I've seen this, multiple examples of this. So this was something that we were looking at to support more of our small to mid-sized businesses. So that's, especially if it's an expansion where there may not be a real property tax savings either, because their building's already there, and they just may not be saving a lot on the property taxes for whatever their plans are. So that's kind of what we want to think about, but we don't want to rush into it. Well, I love rushing into things, but Kasim is extremely thoughtful on all of these, and I really appreciate that, and taking the advice of counsel too, to make sure whatever we write, is we can bounce a quarter off of. So.
No, I appreciate that, but at the same time, it's good that Hillary is there because she pushes me to get to the table quickly rather than taking my time. But one thing I do want to mention, not to jump the gun again, but just so you both are aware, we also will be looking at which fees should be, which cost items should have the fee component associated with them or not. Because, and this is a longer discussion, we won't go into detail, but let's say on page number, I don't think there's a page number, but post closing affidavit, which is after page number.
Yeah,
fourth
they're
page.
sorry.
That's okay, it's on the fourth page. So,
Yep.
as Hillary was alluding to, that there might be a piece of land already in existence that the project applicant owns, perhaps. So the question would be, and it's subjective, so we don't know the answer yet. So what are the line items should that 1% as it currently stands should be applied to? Should be the total project cost, or should be the new project costs that are benefiting from the IDA assistance? So we'd like to, at the right time, have a discussion
Have
on
a
that as well.
discussion about that.
I just think we
That
need
seems
to
important.
be somewhat cognizant that
Yes,
we're looking at this in a time when we've not had a lot of activity, and so we're looking at our reserves being consumed. If that should change, I mean, the purpose of this is to make it as easy and inexpensive as possible. And I would think that we would want to continue that as a goal. We need to fund ourselves, but I think we've had a lull in activity, and if that should change, which sounds like it might, if that does change, then the need for, I think we should be modest about our,
yes.
and have it so it could be maybe increased later, but start modest.
Yeah,
And sorry, the only thing we'll add
Yes,
as council is that post-closing affidavit is an effort to protect you. At the time of the closing, they tell you the project's 10 million, you pay 1% of 10 million. When they complete the project, if the project's really 11 million, they're on their honor to tell you that under that affidavit, and then you collect an additional 1 point
1%
on
on
that $1 million delta. That's the idea here.
So I think that, just to interrupt, I think that we don't want to change this form. It's just these items. I think we want to clarify, and what I have seen from some other IDAs and some feedback from potential project applicants is, what exactly does all of this mean and what actually counts? Because often there's the but-for clause, but it takes a significant investment for them to go through planning also. And so what on that investment that happens before the but-for counts on this? And so I'll give you an example. Tompkins County, they use the language, they have a 1% fee similar to us, but it's the total value of expenses that are positively impacted by IDA incentives. So I think some of the feedback that we get from project applicants is that this can be a little confusing. And I will be honest, I sometimes get confusing. I'm not an expert in construction or engineering or coming to planning boards. And so there are a lot of fees that go into that on projects that sometimes, don't ever get the zoning that they need or the planning board approval that they need to move forward. And so so some of these costs are clear, that these are IDA costs that are going to count towards your 1%. And then some of them are a little grayer. And so we want to just maybe get a good set of eyes on this and make sure that as we move to reaching out more to businesses, that we are very clear with them on what our cost structure is. So,
however, if we bring anything to table, we will be making sure that we have a discussion with council before we even go forward with it, because as Joe pointed out, this is an affidavit, so we want to be consistent as well. But as you said, we don't want to be prohibitive either. So we're not looking to increase or decrease. We want to make sure there is transparency and we can improve efficiency if need be. Anything else I missed, Hillary? I don't think we
On
need to
fees,
discuss
no,
the timeline or anything in this right now.
yeah, we've gone through this.
Alright.
Good.
So that's the update on that. We'll work with council and
Yep.
come back to the committee on that.
Okay.
Should we?
Do you want to do this one next?
Yeah.
So, all right, I'll let you
There's
start.
handout. There are two handouts, as a matter of fact. One is Code of Ethics.
Oh, I think
That's on UCIDA letter,
Thanks.
and then there's the referral
Yeah.
document, which is ABO's recommended practice. I'll let Hillary jump into that as well, but we wanted to make sure that we understand our code of ethics, and if there is anything that we believe is not already covered as ABO proposes, is either covered or we are aware we are not including it in there.
So, we have, now I inherited our website short of the design. So, we didn't really want to take anything off the website that was there. So one of the things, if you go on our website, you will find is this model ABO policy for conflict of interest. Our board has not formally adopted this policy. However, we do have a formal code of ethics policy. And on page 2 of our code of ethics policy, we have a disclosure of interest. So I think this is really more administrative in nature, but I think we'd like to really clarify what our conflict of interest policy is, since we do have a model conflict of interest policy posted on our website, and we have a conflict of interest section of our code of ethics policy. So either what I'm hoping governance will do is make a recommendation either to adopt a separate conflict of interest policy, possibly modeled off the ABO one, because they are the authority's budget overseer.
If we believe we are missing something.
Yes, which theirs is quite long and ours is quite short. So I'm just throwing that out there. And then, we do have our kind of code of ethics, disclosure of interest on page 2, which is, I'm sure covers us. We have phenomenal counsel, but, if you're thinking being more robust in terms of board members disclosing, determining whether it exists, recusal or abstention, all of those things. We could either fold this into our current ethics policy, keep it the same, but either way, I'd like to take this off the website because I feel that it could be confusing. So
If I can say something. Okay, the code of ethics in here and the standards of conduct. So in this list that you currently have, I do see what the penalties are. Anybody violates the provisions of the code may be removed by the membership of the agency in the manner provided by law. Along those lines, you may want to think about inserting something in this guidelines on section 3, somewhere along the lines of that. They can't, Joe, help me out with this, or Chris, where a member can't take a public stand against the IDA while being a member of the IDA.
Right. Essentially saying that you don't believe in the mission itself.
Correct. Is there something that we can draft up and get in there?
I don't think that's a problem.
Okay.
You have to be on board with, if you're not on board with the mission, you shouldn't be.
Right.
Yeah,
You can
and
be
then
you can be publicly undermining the efforts of the IDA.
that's correct. I think it should be about black and white, because that statement alone is going to push you right into 5. Okay, and then one other thing, when you get to the penalties in 5, and this is all hypothetics, but I'm saying that if it does happen, what if you could just tell me what are the procedures to do something along those lines if that takes place and somebody publicly, you don't have to do it right now, just, yeah. Okay. I appreciate it. Thanks.
So
Thank you, Chair.
I think the goal is to maybe have council draft something and then have that draft for our annual meeting. Does that timeline work?
Draft of a revision of the code of ethics.
Do we want to do a revision of the code of ethics, or do we want
I
to?
would say we would
this and then.
Yeah.
any gaps
Exactly.
or anything you suggest, we can review that.
So reconcile the conflict of interest, maybe add it on here, and that way this can go.
We could have some ideas have a separate code of ethics and a conflict of interest. So,
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those should be separate.
And
All
as,
right.
yeah, and as the chair
That's a
has
good idea.
said, if there's anything that needs to be added, how the procedure works for section 5.
For penalties. Okay.
Yeah, my question on the penalties is does this revert back to the legislature? Because I don't think we have the power to remove anybody from the board as the board.
I don't think we do either.
No,
Yeah.
we serve at the pleasure of the legislature, so that would have to go to Chairman Criswell.
Mhm.
Okay, just curious.
I don't think we have the power to appoint or dismiss.
Right.
No.
So it probably is good to have that clear, so
You know, I've seen it happen in other IDAs and you know, and I'm just kind of, it's coming back up where we're reviewing these policies and now's a good time to think about this stuff.
I also think it makes sense that we would have something where members can't speak publicly in opposition
Right.
to things once they're.
Yeah, and we've had that in the past, so
Yeah, that's fine.
I know you do.
All right.
All right, so we'll hopefully get those drafts out to governance and then bring them forward to the board in
And I
January.
believe Hillary is pressing on time because the annual meeting is.
Well, it's easier for us to do this at the annual meeting because then we can just update the bottom of all of these confirmed at the annual meeting and Joe can put it in the resolution and it's pretty and beautiful. Chris
Chris.
Chris can put it in the resolution and it makes our life simpler from an administrative standpoint, especially if all the members are aligned and there aren't outstanding issues around that. So, okay.
Joe's putting airplane apps in his.
Well, I was saying that he may not want to, but he's still not able to remove himself just yet. So.
Just okay. So, go ahead, Kester. Sorry.
No, that's that on this. I will point out two things though. There's a confidential evaluation of the board performance handout that Hillary provided everybody.
Yep.
I would highly recommend everybody fills that out. I think it's a requirement.
It is a requirement.
And it's in the folder.
I can also email it to you if you're someone who'd rather just fill it out electronically. I know, but take two if you're not, because you have to do one for CRC and the IDA. They're the same. So please take two.
And it wouldn't hurt if you have any suggestions as well on the right there, so that we are clear on how you're. These are confidential, so I don't think I'll
Yeah.
see them.
Your name doesn't
But-
even go on them, and we collect them. And honestly, once I mix them up a couple times, I don't know who's this who's either.
It's at
It's right there. Sorry.
Oh, it-
No, I didn't hand them out.
Wow. Oh,
I
okay.
apologize. I didn't want to confuse people. Okay. And so I think because I did not bring the form for the annual mission statement and performance measures, do you mind if I just go through them very quick and then if you kind of think on them when we leave here? So we read our mission at every meeting. I think that to save time, I'm not going to read it again, but I will let you know the performance goals that the IDA adopted March 9th of 2011 and have been reaffirmed annually since then. And those are to advance job opportunities, promote general prosperity and long-term economic vitality of the county, foster creation and attraction of new business, foster retention and expansion of existing business, identify new opportunities for the local economy, and economic well-being for both Ulster County residents and domicile businesses. So a lot of that echoes our mission statement. And this is kind of what we work off of as board members, as administrative staff. And so think on those. And if you feel like they still work, we'll get that form together for the annual meeting. But, you know, in the meantime, this will go before the entire board. So feel free to kind of think about some feedback and if you need anything from me, let me know.
I don't think I have anything else to add. If there's nothing else, I'd like to call the meeting to be adjourned. May I please seek a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
All right.
Do we need to convene one for UCCRC really quickly?
Oh, thank you.
Not to belabor it, but may I please call to order the meeting of UCCRC, December 18th, 2024. It's 10:33 a.m. I'll do the roll call. Costa Hall present. Rico Silverman.
Present.
Stephen Kelly. Present. Thank you. All present. We have a quorum. Meetings in order. May I please seek an approval of the minutes by seeking a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Meeting minutes for November 20th, 2024 have been approved. Any public comment? I don't see any, thank you. I don't believe we need executive session. For points 6 and 7, old business and new business, we just reviewed those for UCIDA, and those are consistent here as well for UCCRC, unless there's anything else, Hillary. On that note, may I please seek a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Joe, for everything.